Today, we're jumping into one of the most powerful ideas in all of marketing, targeting. We're going to look at how companies went from basically shouting at everyone to whispering to just the right person with, well, laser precision. So let's get into it. All right, so let's start with what seems like a crazy question, right? Why wouldn't a company want to sell its stuff to every single person on the planet? I mean, more customers has to be better, doesn't it? Well, it turns out trying to be everything to everyone is often the fastest way to become nothing special to anyone. And this slide right here, it just perfectly captures that huge shift in thinking. Over on the left, you've got the old world, mass marketing, the megaphone approach. Think Henry Ford and the Model T. One car, one color, take it or leave it. But today, the game is all about target marketing, which is way more like a laser. A company like Estee Lauder doesn't just have one brand. Nope, they have a whole portfolio, and each one is aimed precisely at a different group of people. So, how in the world do they get so precise? Well, it comes down to a classic three-step process. First up is segmentation, which is just slicing the market into these different groups. Second is targeting. That's deciding which of those groups you're actually going to go after. And third, you've got positioning, which is all about creating the perfect message for each group. For this explainer, we're really going to dig into those first two big ones, segmentation and targeting. When you really get down to it, this whole process boils down to answering two simple but really powerful questions, the who and the how. This slide breaks those two questions down perfectly. On one hand, you've got strategic targeting. That's the big picture who. Who are the customers that we can build a real two-way relationship with? And then on the other hand, there's tactical targeting. This is the nuts and bolts how. How do we actually reach these people in a way that makes sense? Okay, so let's dive into that first part of the framework, the strategic who. This is all about finding that perfect match between what a customer wants and what a company can offer. And here's the really crucial thing to get. Targeting is a two-way street. A company has to ask itself two things. First, is there target compatibility? In other words, can we actually create amazing value for them? And second, is there target attractiveness? Can they create value for us? You see, it's a partnership. A healthy target market is a real win-win. Now, when we talk about the value a customer brings to the table, it's not always just about cold, hard cash. Of course, monetary value, the profit they generate, is obviously huge. But there's also something called strategic value, which covers all the other good stuff a customer provides. It's definitely harder to put a number on, but believe me, it can be an absolute game changer. So this strategic value, it really breaks down into three main buckets. First, you've got social value. Think of influencers or trendsetters who bring other people along for the ride. Then there's scale value, which is where having a ton of users is the benefit itself, like on a social network. And finally, there's information value. And this one is critical. It's the data your customers give you that helps you get better. And this is just a masterclass in information value right here. The Coca-Cola Freestyle Machine, it's not just a fancy soda fountain. It's a massive data gathering operation. Every single time somebody whips up their own custom mix, Coke is learning about flavor combos and preferences they would never have dreamed of. That information is pure gold for developing new products. Okay, so once a company knows who it wants to serve, it needs a real-world plan for how to find them. And that brings us to the tactical side of things, the four main ways you can slice and dice a market into segments. So first up is the one we're probably all most familiar with, demographic segmentation. This is about dividing the market based on things you can see and measure, right? Things like age, gender, income, or what stage of life someone's in. It's basically the who they are on paper. The Gillette Venus razor is just a textbook example of this done right. Gillette didn't just take a men's razor and paint it pink. No way. They did a ton of research and found out that women have totally unique shaving needs. By targeting based on gender, a key demographic, and designing a product just for that segment, they created a runaway success. Next up, we've got geographic segmentation. This one's pretty straightforward, right? It's just dividing the market based on where people live, whether that's as big as a country or as small as a specific zip code. I mean, just think about Yelp. Its entire reason for being is to connect you with awesome local businesses. When you open that app, it's not showing you the best pizza place in another state. It's using your exact location to give you info that's spot on for where you're standing right now. It's a perfect modern example of this in action. Okay, now things start to get really interesting with psychographic segmentation. This isn't about where you live or how old you are. It's all about why you do the things you do. We're talking about your lifestyle, your values, your personality, your interests, the stuff that makes you, you. You have to hear this story. It's such a fascinating case study. Honda designed the Element to be a dorm room on wheels, and they were aiming it squarely at 21-year-olds. But guess who actually bought it? Baby boomers. The average buyer was 42 years old. It turns out the car appealed to a psychographic profile, a young-at-heart kind of mindset, not a demographic one. It just goes to show you sometimes why you buy is way more important than who you are on paper. And finally, we've got behavioral segmentation. This one is all about grouping customers based on what they actually do. Are they a heavy user of your product or just an occasional one? Are they super loyal or do they always chase the lowest price? This method zeroes in on actions, which are often the best predictor of what people will do next. So companies have all this data, right? Demographic, geographic, psychographic, behavioral. It's a lot. But how do you make all that data feel, well, human? How do you turn a spreadsheet into something a marketing team can actually use to build something great? Well, the answer is you create personas. These are basically detailed, fictional characters that you build from all that data to represent your ideal customer. The whole point is to give that target a name, a face, and a story so that everyone in the company has a crystal clear picture of exactly who they're trying to serve. Best Buy did this brilliantly when they launched their Geek Squad service. Instead of just targeting people who need tech help, they created these really specific personas. You've got Jill, the suburban mom who just needs her tech to work, like a plumber. And you've got Luis, the small business owner who's all about efficiency. You can immediately see how designing a service for Jill would be totally different from designing one for Luis, right? And of course, a company doesn't have to pick just one target. This slide shows two really successful, but totally different paths. On one side, you have Allegiant Air, which uses a single segment strategy. They are laser-focused on leisure travelers from smaller cities. That's it. Then you have Hallmark, which uses a multi-segment strategy, creating different card lines for what feels like a million different occasions and groups. And you know what? Both approaches can be incredibly effective. So, if you're going to take one thing away from all of this, let it be this. Effective marketing isn't about shouting at everyone you possibly can. It's not about reaching the most people. It is all about deeply understanding and connecting with the right people. And that, of course, brings us to a final, really important question for the future. We've seen just how powerful and effective targeting can be, but as technology allows companies to know more and more and more about us, we have to ask ourselves, where does helpful personalization stop and an invasion of privacy begin? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for watching.